Son Edison for the Future, Society 10 Years from Today. Climate change was once thought to be the problem of future generations, but it has now been realized that it is a problem of the present. One of the 10 biggest global challenges is climate change, and policymakers have been advised by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that there is a huge risk of catastrophic climate change if warming is not limited to 2 degrees Celsius. But the Earth's average temperature has already warmed nearly 1 degree Celsius, and some countries have already felt the effects of it. Countries like Bhutan have already begun experiencing the devastating effects of climate change. In an illuminating TED Talk about his country and climate change, Bhutan's Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay describes how they have already felt the effects of melting ice caps. Their town struggled to survive through flash floods and landslides, resulting in widespread destruction. Prime Minister Tobgay showed a picture of a lake that he recently visited in 2016 compared to a picture of the same lake 10 years ago and 20 years ago. Just 20 years ago, the same lake had not existed because it had been snow and ice, but global warming has melted it, and today it is a lake. In reaction to the reality of climate change, 187 countries gathered in Paris in December 2015 for COP21 with the aim of keeping global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. The Paris Pact has a series of legally binding requirements that countries increase the stringencies of climate change policies in the future. These legal requirements include requiring countries to reconvene every 5 years starting in 2023 to publicly report on how they are doing in cutting emissions compared to their plans. They will be required to monitor and report on their emission levels and reductions using a universal accounting system. The plan is designed to create a name and shame system of global peer pressure in hopes that countries will not want to be seen as international laggards. The United States was one of the countries that agreed to the Paris Agreement to combat climate change, and in order to achieve its objectives, there has been a series of agreements on the subnational and private sector levels. One of the agreements is under 2MAO, where the states including California, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and New York have agreed to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 95% below 1990 levels and reduce short-lived climate pollutions. Other groups that have committed to reducing emissions through low-carbon investments, clean energy, and sustainable building are 154 companies that have signed the American Business Act on Climate Pledge and 311 colleges and universities that have signed the American Campuses Act on Climate Pledge. With the commitment that the U.S. made at the Paris talks, companies have expected regulation on how much energy they spend and the amount of carbon emissions they make every year, and this has the potential to trickle down to consumers as the cities and towns they live in work to become more sustainable. One of the resources that will be sought out to meet the demand for clean energy is solar power, which has been harnessed through solar panels. Increasing demand for the utilization of solar power has resulted in innovations in technology. Back in August 2014, researchers at Michigan State University have created a fully transparent solar concentrator which can turn any window or sheet of glass, like the screen of a smartphone, into a photovoltaic solar cell. A transparent solar cell can replace the windows on homes and buildings. In cities like New York, where glass skyscrapers dominate the architecture and is growing at a rate of 9 to 10 people per hour, this could transform not only the level of emissions but also the health of the people living in the city. As a result of the need for clean energy and the potential that solar panels have, companies like Sun Edison Incorporated that work in developing solar power technology can expect to find a large demand for their products in years to come. Through their power purchase agreement, Sun Edison attempts to make it easier for homeowners to install solar panels, and it has been successful in capturing the homeowner market. This financing program allows for solar power technologies to be more accessible to the average household at no upfront cost. Consumers pay a rate lower than conventional power supply. SunEdison Inc. provides free installation, maintenance, and equipment. All consumers are responsible for paying for the power that their hardware produces. SunEdison Inc. easily makes the experience simple for their consumers by providing an app that monitors their hardware 24/7. This provides households with real-time information such as how much power their solar systems are producing at any moment and how weather and seasons affect power production. If consumers produce more power than they need, the power is put back on the grid, and if they produce too little, the consumer can use the grid's energy at an agreed-upon price. Net sales have been pretty consistent for the past few years. Sales took a dip in 2013 but went back up in 2014, but there is general growth in sales. Net sales is divided into 4 segments, and of these segments, solar energy accounts for the greatest amount of sales. Net sales of solar energy systems increased $291.2 million, partially due to higher sales volume. With the data and the increases in data that will occur due to regulation on emissions and the growing interest in sustainability, we can predict that sales will continue to grow for the next 10 to potentially 20 years. Cost of goods sold has increased in comparison to net sales over the past few years, going from about 86 cents in 2012 to 91 cents in 2014. The cost of goods sold might increase in the next couple of years, but typically costs decrease after the industry develops. Considering how solar panels will be used in innovative ways as the need for clean energy grows, research and development costs under operating expenses can be expected to grow as SunEdison looks for new ways to provide solar energy. Demand for solar energy is already present today. In April, a new legislation was introduced to San Francisco and was approved by the San Francisco's Board of Supervisors. The mandate calls for all new buildings up to 10 stories tall to either use solar panels for electricity or a solar system to heat water. This is part of San Francisco's goal of meeting 100% of its electricity needs with clean energy by 2025. The state of California is requiring 50% of electricity from utilities to come from clean energy by 2030. Other cities, especially those on the coast, can expect similar mandates in coming years, which SunEdison will be ready to supply. Even in cities that do not yet have the regulations for clean energy that San Francisco has, a demand for sustainability can be seen. An article by the New York Post describes the trend of sustainability in New York City buildings. Writer Lois West states, "The environmentally friendly bandwagon has rolled itself into the daily vernacular so much that for office tenants, sustainable features are now an expectation and not simply a question mark." Another reason SunEdison can be expected to grow is due to the new ways of using solar panels to harness clean energy better. Paving roads with solar panels is one such method that can be predicted to grow in popularity. France is paving more than 600 miles of road with solar panels, and by 2021 it is anticipated that this will provide power to 5 million people. An area that SunEdison could enter into is rollable solar array. This technology is called Roll Array and was developed by the company Renovagon. It can be towed by any 4x4 car like a Range Rover or a Land Rover. This can be used in remote camps or military bases and can provide instant energy to areas hit by natural disasters. SunEdison could work with Renovagon to improve upon this technology or eventually acquire Renovagon to grow further within the solar energy industry. Sustainability and clean energy are fields that are growing in interest and demand. With the potentials that solar panels have, SunEdison can grow as a company and contribute to improving the well-being of the environment and society. The future is known to bring uncertainty to companies and consumers regardless of the industry. However, for renewable energy, more specifically solar energy, the future is in our hands and it is up to us to determine. In order to harness the enormous potential SunEdison has to offer, our recommendations are as follows. Continue making solar energy available and affordable to homeowners and private consumers. Work with lobbying groups to increase regulation on new building construction and mandate sustainability and renewable energy. Invest in Renovagon to assist in the research and production of roll array product. And lastly, to continue to develop alternative solar panels to accommodate the changing needs of